As the welder touches his torch to the bolt, the gases in the vent pipe pull the flame into the fuel tank. In 1964, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in Japan built Spyros, a steam-powered tanker that could carry up to 64,000 tons of petroleum products. On the 1st of October 1976, the Shell Oil Company in Delaware, USA, chartered the ship for 3 years to transport crude oil. The charter contract had a performance clause. It said that Shell would provide or pay for the fuel costs for a voyage, and that Spyros would get a bonus if the ship saved on fuel consumption. This created a financial incentive for Spyros to use less bunker fuel, which is the ship's operating fuel. Now, someone on Spyros installed a pipe to siphon the crude oil cargo and transfer it into the fuel oil. I don't know who installed this pipe, but the crew were instructed to take some crude cargo oil and top up the bunker fuel. Typically, tankers are built with the crude and fuel oil lines physically separated from one another to prevent unintentional contamination. Fuel or bunker oil by itself won't produce enough vapor to create combustible air, but crude oil will. And so, explosive fumes from the crude oil start to contaminate the fuel oil when the crew intentionally divert crude oil cargo into the bunker tanks. On the 1st of January 1978, Shell subleased Spyros to its wholly owned subsidiary Pectin Trading Company in Delaware, with the same contract still in place. Pectin used Spyros to transport crude oils from ports in Southeast Asia to Shell's refinery in Anacortes in Washington, USA. Later that year, Spyros delivers 60,200 tons of light crude oil from Miri Sarawak in Malaysia to the Shell refinery in Anacortes. The ship unloads its crude oil cargo and then loads 4,050 tons of Shell marine fuel oil bunker C. Class C refers to the characteristics of the petroleum product. Class C products have low toxicity, but they can smother or drown wildlife in an oil spill. It has a high flash point above 66 degrees Celsius. Flammable liquids like crude oil have a lower flash point under 38 degrees Celsius. Spyros uses one of the two shorelines used for cargo discharge to take the bunker on board. The bunker tanks are full, so about 1,500 tons of bunker fuel C are diverted and stored in Spyros number 5 cargo tank. Usually, propulsion fuel is stored in a ship's bunker fuel tank, which is separate from the cargo tanks for safety and quality reasons. On the 15th of September 1978, Spyros sails for Jurong Shipyard in Singapore for general repairs and a full survey. On board Spyros, there's a vent pipe that runs from the aft starboard bunker fuel tank. It has a drip tray with a missing cover, which needs to be repaired. The drip tray is a catch basin for any leaks on the vessel, and the vent pipe is an exhaust outlet to stop pressure from building up inside the fuel tank. On the trip to Singapore, the bunker fuel C stored in the number 5 port cargo tank is pumped to the aft bunker tank to replenish the fuel that's been used. After the crew tops up the bunker fuel, they then clean the cargo tanks to prepare for entry into the shipyard. The cleaning slops are stowed in the number 5 center cargo tank. At 2200 on the 6th of October, Spyros arrives in Singapore. The next day, the crew lets out about 370 cubic meters of slops and 650 cubic meters of wash water, and they clean the slop tank, which takes the whole day. 2 days after arriving in port, on the morning of the 8th of October, an inspector of petroleum from the Port of Singapore Authority boards Spyros to check for inflammable and poisonous gases. He inspects all the cargo tanks except the number 2 and number 4 wing tanks, which hold ballast. He also inspects the cargo pump room and the cofferdams, which is the area between the watertight bulkheads and manifold line openings on deck. The bunker fuel tanks are exempt from inspection as per the Port of Singapore Authority regulation, so the inspector doesn't check the gas in them. At 09:30, the inspector issues a certificate. The bold red words state the whole vessel is gas-free from inflammable vapor, which tells the harbour pilot that Spyros is cleared and it can enter the shipyard. It's been a long time since I learned about flammable and inflammable gases, and I had to look it up. Flammable and inflammable are different because inflammable gases can combust without a source of ignition. At 14:12, the pilot boards the vessel and guides it into Geelong shipyard, where it's moored alongside South Key West on the starboard side. By 1500, the ship is fully shut down and connected to a power source on shore. It's Sunday, so the only activities allowed on board are inspection and preliminary work in line with the repairs specification. Normally, the Chief of Safety and Fire Section assigns a safety officer to oversee a ship when it arrives, but if the ship arrives on a Sunday or holiday, they're assigned the next day. Since there's no appointed officer, Lau Kum Singh, the shipyard safety officer on duty, takes over. It's the safety officer's responsibility to provide Spyros with safety and firefighting supplies. Part of his work is to mark safe zones on deck, like putting up exit signs, designating the areas around fuel oil tanks, and putting up caution signs on their hatches and placing entry signs on all the cargo tanks' hatches. Singh also has other responsibilities, and his shift ends at 16:15, so he leaves the Spyros work to the second shift officer who clocked in at 14:45. But Singh doesn't follow proper turnover protocol, so the second shift officer doesn't even know he's supposed to set out the safety signage on board. Spyros is left unchecked. The safety zones are not signposted, and the Butterworth holes, which are tiny service openings, aren't covered. The next day, Monday the 9th of October, hundreds of Singaporean and Malaysian dock workers and subcontractors start the repair work on Spyros. Some of the ship's crew show the repair workers in and around the 3-level engine room, which workers and crew access via ladders. The aft starboard bunker fuel tank is on the right side of the engine room, divided by a bulkhead. Hundreds of workers pass through the engine room spaces, and there are no safety signs posted. Safety Officer Singh finds out that the second shift officer didn't work on Spyros the previous day. At 1600, Singh boards the vessel, but again his shift ends at 16:15, and so he only has time to check the engine room. He doesn't review the equipment supply list or finish the checklist for firefighting and safety equipment and safety facilities for shipyard repair. He places an order for the engine room's exit signboards, 2 fire hoses, 80 manhole covers, as well as entry signboards. But not all the supplies are brought from the warehouse to the shipyard because, once again, it's already late in the day and there aren't enough workers to help out. On Tuesday, after the ship has been in the yard for 2 days, the Chief of Safety and Fire Section finally appoints a safety officer for Spyros. In fact, he appoints Lau Singh as the ship's safety officer. But it's Singh's day off, and so the chief makes arrangements with another safety and fire officer to cover for Singh. Once again, the colleague doesn't board Spyros to conduct an inspection. On Wednesday afternoon, Singh starts his shift and learns that he's been appointed as the safety officer for Spyros. The inspector from the Ports of Singapore Authority issues more gas-free certificates so hot work can be done in the cargo tanks on board Spyros. But he doesn't issue a welding certificate for the aft starboard bunker fuel tank. At 13:30 on Thursday, 4 days after Spyros arrives in the shipyard, hull fitter Lim Hock Ho and 2 other fitters weld ullage rings onto the foredeck cargo tank hatches. Ullage is the air gap above the cargo oil level at the top of the cargo tank, and the ullage rings are a fixed point to take soundings off to measure the ullage. Lim's foreman stops their welding and leads them to the back of the ship to give them new instructions. The foreman tells Lim to fix a new cover for the vent pipe's drip tray at the aft starboard bunker fuel tank, and then replace the starboard entrance stairs to the accommodation and cargo pump room. Lim follows his orders, and the 3 fitters assemble their equipment, including an oxyacetylene cutting torch. They head towards the bunker fuel tank at the aft starboard or right side at the back of the ship. The drip tray is directly in front of the cabin bulkhead, just under 3 meters above the main deck level. There's already a work stage or platform set up by another team. To fix the drip tray cover, the fitters have to remove 3 nuts on the drip tray and then cut 3 holes in the new cover plate. The 3 nuts are at the left, right, and center of the tray, and the center nut is very close to the vent pipe outlet of the aft starboard bunker fuel tank. A tank that is periodically topped up with volatile crude oil and is exempt from being checked for inflammable gas. There are 167 workers fixing and cleaning around the ship's boiler and engine rooms. Some of Spyros' 32 crew members are also on board. Lim and another fitter climb onto the staging platform to start repairing the drip tray cover. As is normal for Geelong shipyard workers, Lim uses the cutting torch to heat the rusty nuts and loosen them. Lim holds the 25 centimeter flame on the right nut for about a minute, and then the other fitter chisels it away. While waiting for the nut to cool, Lim starts work on the center nut near the uncovered vent pipe. He positions his torch on the center nut. As the flame touches the rim of the vent pipe, fumes seeping out of the vent ignite. At 14:15, inside the dimly lit bowels of the ship, as the flame travels through the vent pipe, it ignites the flammable vapors in the aft starboard fuel tank. An explosion rocks the ship, rupturing the common bulkhead between the fuel tank and the engine room, pushing the bulkhead 1.2 meters towards the engine room. The bulkhead between the main platform and the second deck collapses just beneath the electrician's stall. The force of the explosion blows off the vent pipe cover and the bunker fuel tank hatch cover, which lands 100 meters away on the deck of another vessel, the Trade Fortitude, in another dry dock, injuring 2 men. After the explosion, a flash fire spreads to the port side through the engine room and boiler rooms, and up the stairs leading to the engine room door and the accommodation. The temperature reaches as high as 3,000 degrees Celsius. It's quick but severe, killing men in its path and setting flammable materials ablaze. The men's clothing is still in place, but the extreme heat causes their skin to peel off, which helps investigators work out how hot and for how long the flash flame burns. Hot enough to peel their skin off, but not hot enough or long enough to burn their clothes. Because the common bulkhead is destroyed, oil spills out and flames escape from the tank onto the third deck level and engine room. The burning oil releases thick black smoke, and the sticky oil soaks workers and crew in the engine room. Men throughout the ship are severely burned by the flames. 2 are smothered and drowned from the flowing black liquid. The explosion plunges the engine room into complete darkness, and the workers struggle to find the exit. They try to feel their way out as they choke on the heavy smoke. But the engine room escape routes are designed for only 3 or 4 men in the engine crew to escape quickly. Hot toxic fumes and carbon monoxide fill the ship. Workers stuck in the aft portside corner of the ship opposite the explosion inhale the fumes and suffocate to death. Flames and heavy smoke prevent dockside workers from boarding the ship to save their colleagues. Minutes after the explosion, police, military, and medical services are notified. 8 fire engines aided by firefighting tugboats are dispatched. Hospitals are put on standby to receive casualties, but medical workers think that it's just a routine emergency situation. Rescuers put the fire out within minutes and then make their way into the ship's engine and boiler rooms to search for missing workers. They're slowed down by a flood of oil and water in the boiler room. Injured workers are pulled from the flames and smoke and loaded into ambulances, trucks, and just about any vehicle available. The Army Bomb Disposal Unit and the Criminal Investigation Department's Special Investigation Section and Crime Scene Unit arrive on scene to investigate the explosion. The victims are taken to the Alexandra Hospital and Singapore General Hospital. The majority of them are in critical condition with severe burns and oil covering their bodies and faces. 4 firefighters are admitted to hospital after inhaling toxic gas. Medical staff realize the magnitude of the emergency they face and are soon overwhelmed. Many medical personnel give their time and put in extra hours to care for the injured. The public responds to the disaster by turning up outside Singapore General Hospital in record numbers to donate blood to the injured. In the court case that follows, the welder Lim Hock Ho is sentenced for causing the death of 76 people, and he's given a 6-month jail sentence for each death, a total of 38 years. Lim appeals his case in High Court, and the Chief Justice overturns the conviction because Lim was following instructions from his boss, and the safety officer had not done his job. In a separate hearing, the courts fined Geelong Shipyard about $9,000 and the shipyard's repair manager was fined about $4,500. 70 men and 6 women died in the accident. 52 of the 167 workers and crew aboard Spyros die at the scene or on their way to hospital, and 24 more died in the following days from their injuries. But the craziest thing for me is that the accounting records show Spyros got a bonus of just under $7,900 for its efficient use of bunker fuel for voyages made between January to October 1978. The explosive fumes in the bunker tank came from crude oil being transferred so that the company could make an extra $1,000 a month.